The fact that they have not counterattacked effectively against the Ukrainian penetration, and that the Ukrainians have handled whatever attacks took place, indicates that the Russians are at low ebb in terms of forces. Now, for that salient, you really want to do artillery, very heavy artillery, a lot of it. The capacity of the Russians to produce not the artillery, but the shells in the amounts you need and get them to the battlefield, I talked about logistics before, is really in question. So we're sitting here, the Russians are foaming at the mouth. It's over a week since the penetration, and they haven't been able to mount an offensive from the forces that were already deployed. He has to go back and deploy more forces. This is just a massive miscalculation.
In this video, George Friedman is analyzing the ongoing conflict and offering his thoughts on military tactics, specifically the use of artillery and potential nuclear tactics. Friedman is an expert on geopolitics and founder of Stratfor, a private intelligence company, and Geopolitical Futures, an online publication that analyzes and forecasts the course of global events. From the context of the video, it seems to focus on a hypothetical conflict involving Russia, Ukraine, and potentially the United States. There are a few potential misunderstandings or oversights in his analysis that could be highlighted. Number 1. Assessing military capacity. Friedman suggests that the Russians are at a low ebb in terms of forces due to their inability to counterattack effectively against the Ukrainian penetration. However, it is essential to remember that the apparent effectiveness of a military can often be deceptive. A slow response might not indicate a lack of resources or capability, but could be a strategic choice or the result of internal politics or other factors. Number 2. Nuclear tactics. Friedman criticizes the announcement of a potential nuclear strike as strategically misguided, arguing that the element of surprise is crucial in such a move. While this is true to some extent, the announcement of a potential nuclear strike can also serve as a powerful deterrent and a tool for psychological warfare, causing panic and uncertainty in the enemy's ranks. The notion of mutually assured destruction, MAD, fundamentally underpins the idea of nuclear deterrence and should not be understated.
When you get a tactical weapon, that means you're dealing with small areas, an armored unit coming at you. Strategic means you're killing cities. Okay, so this does not leak that much radiation, okay? And it has a footprint. You can probably take out that target with artillery without the complexity of doing this. The reason it has never been used is not only the terminology is scary to people, it's that in many cases, you're equipped out in the field with artillery. The artillery may be 2-3 rounds more than on a tactical level. The artillery will work, is useful. There's no reason to go to it. And the second thing is, if you're going to have a nuclear attack, you need surprise. Do not announce it. Do not announce, because you can be preempted. It is very dangerous to scare the Americans, and the Russians know that. So the fact that he's announcing an unknown nuclear strike, I haven't said this is tactical. He could be strategic.
Number 3. Artillery versus nuclear attacks. He suggests that an artillery strike could achieve similar results to a tactical nuclear strike without the same complexities. While this might be true in certain cases, nuclear weapons have a much larger destructive potential and a lasting radiological effect, which could be tactically beneficial in some scenarios.
Well, the one thing you don't want to do is bring America to full alert, because at full alert, you want every second you can have to take out missile sites without them firing. I promise you that if the guys are sitting around drinking beer, they aren't now. That the U.S. system is on full alert. And even if they don't fire the United States, they might do it. So my read of it is that if he were serious, one day a mushroom cloud would appear somewhere. If he's going to keep announcing that he's going nuclear, he's just alerted the U.S. to a very high rate of readiness. And the response is unpredictable for him.
Number 4. Geopolitical analysis. The suggestion that the mere threat of nuclear weapons can be used to shape the war into something very dangerous and then be used as a negotiating chip might oversimplify the gravity and complexity of nuclear warfare. Such a strategy is fraught with risks and uncertainties and could escalate the situation beyond control.
So I don't read him as serious about this. If a serious actor would not do what he's doing, he's trying to shape the war into something very dangerous. because then he can negotiate and appear to be negotiating with strength. He knows he's got to talk his way out of this. And he's got to have some way to scare people. Nuclear weapons are always scary. People don't really look at them. And he's giving away the one thing he has to have: time. He has to have those extra 20 seconds to get to that strike before anything comes at you.
Number 5. Referendum in occupied areas. While Friedman sees the announcement of a potential referendum in the occupied areas as a clear tactic, it is worth noting that referendums and issues of territory control are complex matters with significant implications for local populations, national sovereignty, and international law. His assumption that Russia would merely be handed these territories seems to dismiss these complexities.
He's got to do something that makes him more dangerous. He's got to motivate, particularly the Americans, to want to end this. And as I said before, we're not taking casualties, we're using weapons, we're having a fine old time. He has really this option, which is flanking the Ukrainians, not engaging them, but either going to the north or the south. Belarus, which is to the north, and a Russian ally, said something about army officers being mobilized. They've got a substantial army.
Number 6. Flanking tactics. The idea that flanking the Ukrainians might be an effective strategy, while plausible, fails to consider that military action, especially in this volatile region, can have unforeseen and far-reaching political consequences.
There's activity down in Serbia around President Dodik getting very close. All this is intended to get us nervous. But at the same time, he's got to come at the Ukrainians in a different way. He's got to inflict some casualties on the Americans. He's got to do something and then talk. Okay? So what he would like to do, and I think he'll fail, is come in from the flanks, engage the Ukrainians, inflict casualties, force them into a retreat, take more of the country. The other thing he did was he announced that he was going to have a referendum in the occupied areas that he has. Well, those are areas he owned before. This is Russian occupied area. Before the war began, there was pro-Russian and there were a lot of Russian forces. And everybody's always said that the settlement is going to be officially giving this area to the Russians, Ukraine getting the rest. That was what he rejected. So it's very interesting that he spoke about making this area Russian, because he kind of confirms what the war began with and turn it into victory.
Remember that geopolitical analysis is a complex field, and various factors, including political, social, and economic ones, can dramatically influence the course of events. Friedman's commentary provides a specific perspective on this hypothetical situation, but it is essential to consider multiple viewpoints and interpretations when discussing such complex and sensitive matters.